Welcome to Wellness Radio with Dr. Jeanette-Gallagher as your host. Her show discusses topics of health, wellness, and spirituality, and is about discovering your place in this great universe, from your cells to the cosmos. Along with her guest, in casual conversation, she strives to ask the difficult questions that may be holding you back from a vibrant life, and shares new ideas that may inspire you to make a change in your life that you only can see in your dreams. And now, here is Dr. Jeanette-Gallagher.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Wellness Radio. This is Dr. Jeanette-Gallagher, and it's a pleasure to have you with us here this evening. Tonight we are going to be talking about our journey, the journey through life, the journey around life, the journey sometimes when we're sitting down, we're stuck in a hole, depression, suicide, struggles, health, maybe end of life. We are just plain stuck on that road. And we look up and we say, is there something more? Is there a next place to be? Is there any way that I can nurture myself? Perhaps maybe I can invent the wheel again and maybe get myself out of this space in time. Many times we say about our life journey that it's right or wrong, good or bad. We have to get somewhere. We have to be better. We have to do higher. We have to. We turn around and we negate the experience we are in. What are we learning from being stuck? Can we find our community of people around us to support us? Can we find others and we assist each other in supporting our lives going forward? Can we find the pearls of life in the bottom of a hole and not always have to navigate through the clouds? Today my guest is Amir Siddiqui. His book is From Suicidal to Serene, How to Make the Food, Mind, Body, Spirit Connection Work for Your Health and Happiness. What we're going to be talking about today is how can we nourish body, mind, and soul, but also how can we honor the path we are in, regardless of the path or the moment in time that we may be stuck, that we may be free, or everything in between. Amir, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Well, it's my pleasure to be on your show, Dr. Jeanette.
I'm so happy to have you, Amir, to talk about this because I think sometimes people will say, but I must be doing something right or wrong, or I must be this, that, or the other. And they cast so much judgment on themselves by looking at the outside world. How do you think perhaps your journey in reflection will say, it's okay where you are at this moment, whatever that is?
Yeah, well, that's a great observation. We always judge. We judge somebody else, we judge our neighbors, our parents, and ourselves. I used to do that a lot, and I suppose I still do. But once I started to grow and I started my healing and personal growth journey, it gives you awareness. And once you have awareness, it changes your whole life. So now, I used to always regret, should have done this, I should have done that, always should have, regret, all that. I don't do that anymore. And, I try to enjoy life in the moment the best I can. Doesn't mean I always succeed, but I'm getting there.
Yeah. I think so many times we find that if we look back on decades ago, I myself am over 65 and you're older also, and we can remember when we grew up, it was all about how high can you go, climbing the ladder, doing better than, and it always was about what can we know more. So I think those emotions, those habits, and those pathways of navigating our life were pretty much inbred in us very early. And now we look at the year 2022 and we look at the younger generations and we're going, goodness gracious, they are so different. Look at how they are navigating their lives. perhaps?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, so much has changed in the past couple of decades, and you're right, I always wanted to achieve this and do better than others. Always a competition, like programming to our gene, our DNA, from our parents, from neighbors, and all that. And you wanted to do that, you try. And I tried so hard all of my life. I never succeeded. And eventually when I started my journey, that I just gave up, trying to do better than others. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, because I think everybody's looking for this quest. We're going to be happier and we're going to have joy and bliss. Those are 3 words. They're at the top of the page, and they have a list of all of these attributes that you have to check off to be able to get there. And so many people will say, I got there, but all of a sudden I kept slip-sliding. I felt like wet paint on the side of a building. I just kept running, and some of those things got unchecked, and I had to keep trying to get myself back up there. So I think the idea is that what is really happiness, what is really joy, and what is really bliss is what we'll talk about today. Because even in the face of disease, of poverty, of depression, of being stuck, and you just can't seem to get yourself going, you still can have happiness in the moment, if it's only for a moment. It's up to you to string those pearls together. Do you think, perhaps?
Yeah, I do. But let me just make a quick point, So there's a huge difference between having fun and being happy. And I used to have fun here and there, watching movies or just eating chocolate, other things that gives you a little bit fun. But I don't think I ever had happiness in my life. And part of it is, the way I grew up, my parents, they were not happy. But, once again, I kept saying, started my journey, then I started to feel happiness. First of all, happiness is a state of mind, and it's also a habit. You have to cultivate if you're not born with it. And yes, you are right, we can be happy in poverty or disease, all those, you can think right. And if you have cultivated the habit of happiness, in my experience.
You know what I think also, too, when you talk about, how you grew up, I mean, I've had this very similar experience. And if you look at it, that was what was going on in history at that time. We want to look back with eyes of 2022 and judge the past. And that kind of really gets us super stuck, because we don't even go back and say, let's jump back there. And they were coming off post-war. They were coming off post-depression. They were coming off not even having modern medicine. They were coming off, people were very illiterate, not even getting out of the 6th grade. So who are we to judge the past? But how can we take it and say, we've done such a wonderful job of learning and expanding ourselves, and that's how we end up healing our ancestors or healing our families. Do you think truly your book, From Suicidal to Serene, is about how do you heal yourself so you can go out and heal your family, help heal your neighbors, your loved ones, and those around you? Isn't that what the joy of life is about?
Yeah. I agree with you on that. And I might add, once you heal and once you become healthy and happy, it's just the energy. So somebody comes around you and with you, even for a minute, they get something rub off. And, we infect people with either happiness or misery. So yes, my answer to you is yes,
Let's talk for a second about the idea of when you come into a brief second of awareness. It's almost as if there's a crack in the earth and all of a sudden somebody shines the light on you and you say, that's the way out. That's how I feel. That's how I can breathe with a little more ease. And I think that's what everybody's truly trying to find in their journey, no matter what level they're on. Even today, just before this show, it's been really hot here in New Orleans. It hasn't rained for maybe 2 months now. And there was this little tiny line, cool front. Our cool front is going from 85 to 80. But at any rate, the cool front was going to come in just this morning. And it's real thin for maybe 5 minutes of a brief rain and a little bit of stirring up of the wind. And the leaves are going around in a circle. And you can feel the energy in the moment in time. And I think sometimes that's what everybody's seeking is, how can we shift our energy? How can we shift and feel something different inside of us? And every time a friend comes through, I'll go outside and I stand out there, and I'm feeling and smelling all the electrons in the air and the wind whipping around and the brand new, raindrops that are falling down, and feel that energy deep inside. Do you think that perhaps with depression and suicidal thoughts, as I've had many experiences in my lifetime with my family members, they said they're always looking for that sense of. And so if you can go out and feel that moment in time out there in the, the moment of, that little front coming through, that can start to turn something inside of you, and maybe you don't need to end your life. Maybe you don't need all these heavy drugs. Maybe you do need to start looking at something differently. So in essence, what I'm talking about is how can we create a light moment and put it on repeat so that we can continuously try to string it together to have a new reality. Isn't that what your book is about, is how do we find these little moments in time? What are they for each individual, and what do they look like? So what I shared is what mine looks like. Can you share a few of yours, what they looked like over your time?
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to. So, to me, it was really challenge, really hard. It wasn't easy. So, because I was in a wrong vibration, wrong energy, and cause become effect, effect become cause. And I was going through this thing my whole life. So I did not even know how I can do something. And frankly, I didn't know it was even possible for me. I thought that is my faith, that it's written in stars and heaven, and it's going to be always that. That's what I believe. So frankly, I had no hope. I had no faith. And I was trying, but I don't know, I have no way out. But as I said, once I started my journey in 2015 with Bob Proctor, it was a 1-year course. Course ended, I was still unhappy, I was still unhealthy, still, angry. But one thing came, and that thing was, yes, it is possible for me to change my life. There's one thing I understand, and that understanding changed my life. Because from that day onwards, I tried new things, something, anything to improve my life, to live better, to live more, to do better, all those things. So that course did not give me much, but it gave me one thing, yes, it is possible. And that understanding, that new belief was a light for me. And from there on, I did so much work. But eventually, slowly but surely, I transformed my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that once you get that crack or that moment in time, just as I shared the light, or standing outside, it's sort of like the idea of, who told you you can't stand in the rain? Do you know what I mean? It's sort of like, and we grew up all the time, don't stand in the rain, you're going to have this happen or that happen or whatever. The bugs are going to crawl on you, or you're going to get struck by lightning, or blah, 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 blah. And I think sometimes the idea is that if there is a moment of possibility that is something open and it's new, it's fresh, and it's not dragging this bag of, of luggage with it, can we be open and say, I'm going to choose that versus all of the old stories? A new belief, to me, has the word hope written all over it. Do you think?
Definitely, 100%. No question.
Yeah, I think that sometimes people say that hope is, though, I'm going to get and I'm going to have perfect health, or I'm going to survive and I'm not going to die, or I'm going to be wealthy and I'm never going to have to struggle. What happens when the idea of hope seems to have a dark color around it and it's out of your reach? For me, I say change the word of how you're defining hope, but how do you define hope, and what happens when you feel the darkness around hope?
Well, that's a good question, and let me share my understanding. So first of all, I was diagnosed with depression in 1998. Before, I didn't even know I had depression. And with all my failures acquiring a degree and job, depression becomes severe. And I took so many medication, Abilify, Depakote, Paxil, Xanax, lithium, Risperdal, so many. And none of medicine helped me to a point that I feel better. Not only that, I received 50 sessions of cognitive behavior therapy. And don't get me wrong, cognitive behavior therapy is good, but depending what you need. The problem is, to me, cognitive behavior therapy did not give me a hope. It only removed your distortion in thinking. My problem was I went through a physical, emotional trauma in my life, and my belief was I had no hope. And to me, hope is when you change your belief. Yes, when I realize I am the co-creator in my life. And energy, everything is energy. Every energy goes through me and around me. And all I have to give the right thoughts, right belief. And I can create my own reality, being a co-creator. And that's hope, So I just went through experience of cognitive behavior therapy and medicine. So that's why it did not help me. Not that, people should do them if they need them. But they did not give you hope. And hope was what I was needed, So I eventually got it.
I think also, too, the idea is that when people are going through therapies or treatments, be it drugs, psychotherapy, be it journaling, being asking other help, being it in an institution, be it whatever it is, the belief is that it will, quote, fix you and you will never have an occurrence. In other words, you will never go back. But in essence, every moment in time, we are always recreating that moment in time. So we will never, quote, go back to how bad it was. We will go back to we may go back to a similar experience, but it isn't the same. So if we can really grasp that, we can say, okay, so I had a slip. It's similar in its appearance. However, it is not the same because I am different, and I have the power now to be able to make different choices. And that kind of slowly inches you along the way to be able to find more of your own inner power. Do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I do. So, like I always say in my book, healing is a journey, not a destination. So you get healed doesn't mean you become perfect or you won't get any depression or anything. Sure, you still feel negative emotion, you still go to depression, but won't be as long or as severe. So yeah, I can relate to what you said, and that is my experience.
Yeah, I think that's so vitally important to always say. It's also, too, about your perspective of it, the moment in time. So a lot of times people will say, oh, I'm I'm all finished with that. I'm never going to have that again. And then they hit a hole and they say, oh, my gosh, there's my old friend again, that old label again. When in essence, you could just say, I have this sense of that emotion. I can feel it in my body. I see, or I'm looking out and I'm judging, or I'm noticing something as an appearance. And take it for its face value instead of wearing it as your armor. Isn't that what therapy, treatment, healing, and moving through our experiences is all about? Versus saying, I've always got to carry it because it's mine. I own it. We don't own it. It's something we pass through. Do you think perhaps your book shares steps on how to pass through these moments in time?
It does. I mean, in my book, I shared many, many lessons that I learned. And although they are my experiences, anybody can learn from them and improve their life. So, like, for example, what I focus on is awareness. And I always say awareness is not knowing something. Awareness is knowing something when something is happening. The higher awareness, consciousness. And once you grow and, keep growing, then, you can always find some tool or modality to deal with the crisis you have. And on top, once you've been through, you'll have those tools too, and that tool can help you. And one thing I find really helpful, at least for me, is forest bathing. So forest bathing is spending time in nature, no cell phone, no friend, just quietly sitting in forest and connecting with yourself. And forest bathing really helped me a lot. And I just described in the one whole chapter 4, how I discovered. And I did not discover through reading from book. Somebody told me. I was so depressed, and going through job every day and come home, sleep, and again go to job. I didn't know what to do. But I just, by chance, sit in the park for an hour or so and no cell phone, nothing, quiet, and felt really good. And then I started becoming my habit, going to nature, sitting there, taking my shoes off, touching the ground, touch, smell, feeling. And in a month, it improved my life a whole lot. Mm-hmm. So I was wondering what happened. So I did some research. What happened? Then I found out it's called forest bathing. So this helped me a lot. But of course, reading a book and trying to gain some awareness, if you have a desire, then you will gain it slowly but surely. Two things, I would recommend.
I think also to the idea of forest bathing, I grew up into the mountains in Pennsylvania, and I mean, that was just my nature. But I was also, talking with spirits. I would feel the energy around me. I knew when a tree was going to be able to blow in the wind, or I knew when I might be able to sense a deer behind me. I think that's a peak awareness of the energy that we are energy beings versus all of this donning of the human that everybody wants to say. Are you a success? Are you not a success? Are you happy? Are you unhappy? Are you doing good? Are you not doing good? Do you think that perhaps when you can strip away all that human dogma and come really into connecting with nature, connecting with the energy of your body, how it feels when you're outside? Just as I shared, before about standing outside, you could feel the energy whirling around. Those are very important qualities that shift the chemical makeup of your body. It shifts what you put into your body. It shifts your thoughts, your nutrition. It shifts how you feel around other people. And that shift is what is called healthy choices. Yes?
Yeah, that's correct. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's take a break for a moment, and we will be right back.
Today we discuss many life-changing concepts. Who do you turn to, and how do you know what is best when faced with a health crisis? Dr. Jeanette is a patient advocate. She listens to the patient, the doctors, and the family, clarifies the health issues and concerns, then helps the patient make the best choices going forward. If you would like help implementing change into your life and health, we can talk and see where you are stuck and how to improve the quality of your life. Check the link on the bottom of today's show page or visit dr-jeanette-gallagher.com to schedule a phone appointment today.
So let's talk for a second, Amir, about when you share about nutrition, and we talk about nutrition, we talk about supplements, we talk about choices and therapies and treatments, but also too, it's about what you put into your mind. Can you share a few of your examples from your book of From Suicidal to Serene about when we make these choices, how can we recognize what they are actually doing for us? How can we recognize that, hey, this is a good thing and this is awesome and I want to keep doing it? Because sometimes when you're super stuck and depressed, you're super stuck and you're very sick, you can't even recognize that a flower is growing next to you in the woods, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Can you share some of your stories about how to be able to nourish?
Yeah, sure. So, as you mentioned, in 8 years of journey, first of all, to answer your question, how do you know the choice working? Well, when you make a choice, suppose, a healthy diet, for example, and I described in my chapter 5. So when I cut out all junk food, lots of vegetable, fruits, some good quality meat, all that, and I started a habit, in a month, I noticed huge difference. I'm feeling good. I have more energy, and my even thoughts and feelings, are much more positive. So that's one. That's the answer to your question. How do you know? Well, by seeing the results, how you feel, how you do. And now the only problem was I was doing great, but my mental programming was still not improved. I had distortion, I had trauma. So when I was driving or get some, difficult customer, I still get triggered. So I still have a trigger problem from many things, but my life has improved a whole lot in just 1 month. So I described in chapter 6, so one can do that. So it's not complete healing, but again, complete healing is mind, body, spirit, holistic approach. You have to work on all areas, and that's what I suggest. But even if you work on one area, it makes a good difference and your life improves, then you have energy to do more things. You can apply more techniques and modalities and growth. So, that's my, story. But most important thing is your thoughts and programming. And people say you can change your habit. Yeah, habit changing, not easy. It's hard. And my problem was a trauma. I had a trauma. So for me, it was a big challenge, I always think I was a victim. I always see myself as a victim. And that took a lot of effort to remove that belief.
Yeah. I always liken it to women with their purses. Do you remember, Amir, like in the late 80s and 90s, women had their purses and they were getting bigger and bigger. You know what I mean? They were carrying these big purses and people were saying, what do you got in there? What do you got in there? And then now all of a sudden in the year 2022, women aren't carrying purses anymore. It's sort of like, history is reflecting that we choose not to carry our emotions, our old stories, our traumas, and all of our baggage that we've been through. In other words, we can't always refer back to the old Rolodex because we don't use it anymore. who even knows what a Rolodex is for many generations, you know? And it's funny because sometimes, you know, when you meet someone, you say, I know you from, I know you when, and you're always bringing up that past. Instead of saying, I'm so happy to see you. What's going on today? Isn't that a healthier choice? To be able to reduce some of those triggers. I call triggers those little, I almost call them as chiggers, you know, that are almost carried around in your purse or your old bag, you know. It's like, can we just let that old bag and that old stuff go away, right?
Yeah. I agree. That's a better way of, you know, communicating. So you're right, you know. But again, you know, we do what we do all of our life without any thinking. And that's called paradigm, the subconscious mind. That's what habit is. 98% of things we do, we don't think about, we just do them. So to change, yeah, you're right, is good. But we have to be aware of first, we need to change. Once we are aware, then we can change.
What about the idea of our past is our identity, the collection of all of our experiences, our legacy, and the idea that that is all there is? On this show for over a decade, we've always spoken about how can we shed our identity? How can we let go of all of those stories? And our legacy is just, hey, I was here, and be as simple as that. Is that a possibility?
It sure is the possibility. But again, you know, for somebody to do that, they have to grow and, you know, have a different belief and programming. That's definitely a possibility.
But I think also, too, when your identity starts to become shed and, you know, you let go of some of those old things, you say, but, and I'll say, fantastic, I love living in the but world, you know, because that means you are seeing the door of possibility. And once you enter the door of possibility, it's sort of like, well, I really don't want to be carrying around that which I was holding on to. So do you think perhaps, just as is on the cover of your book, you know, with the mountains and the fog around it, when you come out of that fog, you can really see, hey, the sky is ever changing. It is never the same. And isn't that how you can look at life going forward?
Sure. Life is always changing. I mean, and you can always look for possibilities. You know, it's all about possibilities, and the potential is always there. I believe we have infinite potential to do anything or be anything, but, you know, we have to be open-minded to accept that and come out of our identity, you know. But I guess that's how our culture, our TV, our media, our neighbor, you know, that's how we program. I guess that's why people are finding it hard to change.
Yeah. You know, it's so interesting. I had a show with an elder woman, her and I, we just were laughing the whole entire show because she was talking about trauma and all of her pain of her lifetime. And I said, you know, if we had a bunch of women over the age of 70 and we all were in this awakening kind of type of mentality, we would say, hey, I had that experience. And another would say, hey, I'll up you 10 coins. My experience is even better. And there'd be, and everybody would be sharing all these experiences, almost like playing poker with your experiences, you know. But once you do that, you realize it isn't binding you. It isn't holding you back with chains. It isn't your face that you are wearing. And might that be a time when you truly dance in the joy and the bliss? Because when you get to that joy and that bliss of, yo, we're on the Me Too thing. Hey, I've got one of those, you know, and another one, I've got one bigger. Let me tell you about mine. And when you start to do that, you feel lighter. You feel like everything's going to be okay. You know, it's so funny. I was saying this as I'm thinking, you know, I'm getting ready to clean out my closet. And I said, I want a European closet. And if you ever know about those, they have like 4 pants, 4 shirts, 4 sweaters, 4 jackets, and 4 shoes, and that's it. And I'm going, awesome. All my stuff's going. So I think just as you shared and we've shared today about our life journeys, don't you think we also, too, are willing to let them go?
Human trauma.
Everything, yeah.
His experience. Yeah. I do. And just to, you mentioned about European closet. So what I do every year, at the end of year, I look at my closet and see if I did not use my shirt or pair of pants or shoes or any item is the settling idle. I throw them away. So I try to be declutter, every year. So just to.
Yeah, I think once you start getting into the habit of clearing out drawers, clearing out closets, clearing out your mind, and also clearing out your body, you start to become this free-flowing person. In other words, you don't really need all that much. You don't have to live by a fast food place because you can find foraging in the woods to nourish your body. You don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, I'm not near my doctor. You can lay down and take, time into nature, just as you shared about forest bathing, and nourish your mind and your soul. So might we say, are there other ways to be able to nourish body, mind, soul, and spirit?
Yeah, there are many ways, and I shared all the experiences I had. And one thing I found, I guess I tried pretty much every modality one can think of. So cognitive behavioral therapy, EMDR, acupuncture, Reiki, hypnotherapy, medicine, forest bathing, neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. So many things, but it depends, on person to person. So I believe every individual is unique, and they have to look within and find their own answer. But I did describe, what I experienced and pros and cons of all the therapies I experimented and experienced with. Then readers can take it from there. And if they find, yes, resonate with me, sure, go for it. And if not, don't. You don't have to. You have to just seek your own answers, I believe. But I shared so many modalities and therapies based on my experiences.
I think every one of those experiences that you went through in those modalities is very crucial in our life path because it opens up another little box on the shelf of possibility. In other words, when you do acupuncture, you say, "Ooh, I didn't know that energy felt that way." Or you look at it and you say, about going, with supplements. You go, "Oh gosh, that one must have been a cheap one. It really upset my stomach. That's not a good one." Or you think about food and you say, do I really have to have that essential food group in my life because it's required? And you go, who's that talking to me, right?
Yeah, you're right. So now I don't exactly count calories something, but I try to eat food that has right protein, less carbohydrate, good fat, lots of fiber in my body, and I take some supplements. So I just become a habit, and I always buy a good quality supplement from whole food that I also discuss in my book. Some are synthetic and some are whole food. So some people give a bad name to supplements, but it depends, if they are cheap synthetic, then no. If they're from whole food, yes. But also, you have to know what you need. It's also equally important, And also you have to know supplements are not replacement. They're supplement. Meaning you need to have a empowering mindset, a healthy diet, exercise, a deep sleep, 6 to 8 hours, connection to nature, connection to humanity, social connection, all that. And then if you take right supplements from whole food, then sure, they do help. So I make this point very clear, in my book.
Absolutely. Well, in closing, Amir, I think I always shared with this on the radio. I said, I am the most compliant person in the entire world. And people said to me, well, did you take it? Did it do this? And I said, no way. Even when I give, a client, I'll say, here's an herb. And they'll say, what's it going to do for me? And I'll say, you know what? I have no clue. Let me know what it'll do for you. How did you mess with it? How did you feel it? Because I think sometimes we get stuck with the perception, is it right or wrong again? And we really want to shed that right or wrong for me, that it's going to have power over me, versus I'm going to dance with it and see how it feels. It's really awesome when you can find that you can bring your mind and your body into alignment and be able to have the dance of the spirit. And, Amir, I think it was a great time talking to you today, because many times people say, I don't know how to get started, but what you and I share today are many examples of being able to say, this is what a first step may look like. Now go out and create your own. Do you think we'd like to share with them to be able to find that door and open it, to find possibilities for themselves? Yes?
Yeah, that's true. I tried to, the reason I wrote my book, because I found my purpose, and that is to share my understanding with others. So I had the urge to write this book for many months, and I wanted to just start a conversation, what it means to be happy and healthy, and how people can find their own answer. That's how this book is written.
Absolutely. Can you share with the listeners how to find out more information about your work, Amir?
Yeah. So the name of book, From Suicidal to Serene. This is also name of my website. So if they go to my website, From Suicidal to Serene.com, they will find my blogs, bio, information about book, links to buy my book, podcast, and everything in between.
Very good. Well, Amir, it was such a pleasure to have you with us here today, because many of us have different journeys, and sometimes people need to hear something that will trigger their thoughts to be able to, say, the door is unlocked, now you can walk through. And today what we did is we've perhaps maybe seeded a new path. So I thank you so much for joining us today. It was such a pleasure to have you.
Well, it was my pleasure to be on show, and I'm grateful for that. So thank you for having me on your podcast.
Thank you. If you'd like more information about Amir Siddiqui, you can get the book. It's From Suicidal to Serene. Please do click on the link on the bottom of today's show page to go directly to his website for more information and be able to read his blog, check out his book, and find out about all of his work, his path, and how he opened many doors to possibilities around him to be able to say, this is what I choose today, this is what I'm going to do going forward, and this is something that you can find joy and bliss in the moment, even in face of all of the struggles you might be having at this time. So thank you so much for joining us today. This is Dr. Jeanette-Gallagher, and until tomorrow, have a great day.
Today we discussed many life-changing concepts. Who do you turn to, and how do you know what is best when faced with a health crisis? Dr. Jeanette is a patient advocate. She listens to the patient, the doctors, and the family, clarifies the health issues and concerns, then helps the patient make the best choices going forward. If you would like help implementing change into your life and health, we can talk and see where you are stuck and how to improve the quality of your life. Check the link on the bottom of today's show page or visit dr-jeanette-gallagher.com to schedule a phone appointment today.